Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty good news coming out here when it comes to the PlayStation 5, where it actually finally might get a little bit easier to go and get bought and find your PlayStation 5 consoles. Now, as you guys know, throughout our channel itself, we've been kind of on the pretty hardcore focus on making sure we find restocks and everything else, and we've had a bit of a quieter past few weeks, so hearing this little bit of good news is always fantastic to go and hear. There's actually a little bit of a summary when it came to like the Sony's investor briefings, which basically kind of goes and talks about projections, talk about what they're going to be doing with their consoles, and all that stuff throughout the next, well, fiscal year. So the next 1 year pretty much from right now, a little bit lesser than that. And some of the numbers are actually very, very surprising. We're actually going to see that they want to go and have in the 18 million console mark. We have a lot of things to go talk about, a lot of statements to go do. We'll probably have a few of these videos throughout the next few days discussing this, because there's always a lot of stuff to break on down when it comes to these big investor meetings and forecast and, big executives always talking about this type of stuff. So like I said, we have a lot of things to go break into, so let's go talk about it as well. If any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console Controller, Twitter and Twitch room down below, the Weeble and Coinbase down below, and everything else down below, Twitter giveaway down below, and all that good stuff. And let's go and dive in the video itself. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of information to go and dissect into this now, but I think overall some of this is actually looking more on the good side, mainly because a lot of the supply shortage issues actually should be getting fixed. So we actually have an article over here from GameStop kind of somewhat summarizing and talking about all the PlayStation 5 information. So with this, finding a PlayStation 5 might finally get easier as of this year. The company is forecasting now. This alone huge. The company is forecasting a PS5 sales of 18 million this fiscal year, which is up dramatically, as you may not be able to see from that one, and that could mean that supply issues are finally getting better. So if you've been looking for a PlayStation 5 but haven't been able to get one, 2022 could be your year. Sony has projected they will sell many millions more PlayStation 5 units in the current fiscal year, and this could be a sign that the company believes the chip shortages and other supply issues might improve, leading to more units being available to buy, although obviously nothing is guaranteed though. So first and foremost, that is just music to my ears. I'm sure if you guys have been watching our channel for a while, I just want you guys to get your consoles. I would not still be doing this if I did not want you guys to go and get it. So at this point right now, it goes to show that they want to be making and producing and selling millions more. It's compared as of this past year or so, which is great to see. So as part of Sony's latest investor briefing, the company said it projects to sell, and this is a huge thing right here, it projects to sell 18 million PlayStation 5 consoles during the fiscal year that began April 1st and runs through March 31st, 2023. So basically that's going to be within the last month, because as you guys know, we're May 10th. So basically the next 11 months, they're somehow projecting, I have no idea how, 18 million more console sales. Although this is also factoring, I believe, other countries, so think like China, Japan, Europe, etc. Right now, America and Europe are the two biggest, highest selling population regions so far. This number is based on the company's current visibility into parts procurement. So this is literally from Sony themselves. Sony executives who have access to the numbers, have access to the books, have access to pretty much everything internally, where it's hey, we have 8 million being secured for say July through December, or we want to make sure this upcoming holiday year is gonna be really, really good. Stuff like that. That is still a big number to see. So I'm a little baby bit skeptical, because we actually did have Sony before be hey, we're gonna sell 40 million consoles, we're gonna beat the PS4, huge numbers, big, and then they had to go and lower those numbers. But I do kind of feel as of now, we're around 2-3 years into kind of the supply chain big issue, so I feel they have more of a realistic number and a realistic expectation. So for comparison, Sony sold 11.5 million PS5 consoles during its fiscal year that ended on March 31st, 2022, so just a few weeks ago, and 7.8 million consoles for the fiscal year that ended on March 31st, 2021. That is a sizable jump, and Sony is essentially predicting it will sell upwards of 60% more systems during the current fiscal year than it did last year, which those are some huge numbers. If they kind of go and stand by almost all this type of stuff, this is one of the biggest pushes in terms of stock for a while. And maybe this is what they want to do before. If you guys do remember, they did mention that they wanted to go have huge numbers and beat the PS4, and then, like as I mentioned, they had to delay it. So maybe now they can finally procure these chips that they thought they're going to have a few months back, and then go from there. Maybe that's a big thing to go and see. So far in 2022, Sony has sold 2 million PS5 consoles, which compares to 3.3 million during the same month, a 3-month period last year. I always want to go and make a separate video just on that alone and kind of talk about that because it's kind of big. But 60% more systems during that year is huge. Like, that should be also good for the stock, also good for the company, and as well, I'm probably assuming they just want to have a lot of these more consoles out, say for God of War and other big exclusives, because what's the point of having all these exclusives if you can't even buy them, you can't even get them, you know what I mean? So 18 plus million for the current fiscal year works out to be an average of 4.5 million per quarter for the current fiscal year. So if you guys kind of compare it to the previous numbers of 2 million, that is huge. Like, that'll actually be like us seeing proper restocks and things properly showing up in stores. This is huge. This would be on par with the PS5's best quarter ever in quarter 3 of, basically, this is like basically the launch. Like, this would be in comparison to, like, the launch weeks where they had all the restocks, they had the pre-orders, they had like the secondary, thirdary waves, and all that stuff, which is huge. So basically, this is when Sony sold the 4.5 million consoles at the system's launch. So you guys are seeing, like, these are some huge numbers. Now, we still have to see it. Like, as of right now, you guys can kind of compare to previous months. 2 million is nothing. That's probably why we've had such a dry past few periods. But when it comes to this stuff, the fact that the stock numbers are looking way, way better is kind of getting me a little hyped up. It's kind of getting me a little excited because we can finally start getting some good restock news. Because if you guys have been seeing my day-to-day videos, I'm like, well, we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs and waiting. So this is actually really huge. So basically for this one, it all seems to suggest that Sony has reason to believe that despite any ongoing supply issues, they will actually be able to go get more of these PlayStation 5s onto shelves, which also ideally would make it easier for you guys to go and actually buy one. While Sony seems somewhat optimistic about supply looking better, the wider consensus on general supply issues is less positive, as some of the wider technology world believes shortages could stretch into 2024. But once again, we kind of talked about this a little bit on our AMD video, where AMD was like, yeah, we're probably going to be seeing some really good console restocks either way. I think a big thing to note is that this is literally Sony themselves. So while you could have Intel maybe having issues until 2024, the fact that the PlayStations are looking and seeming from Sony themselves more available, being produced more and more being sold, I think that's a big thing to know, like especially when it's coming from Sony themselves. So looking to the video game space specifically, Nintendo said during its own earnings briefing this week that there is no end in sight for the ongoing chip shortage, according to the Wall Street Journal. So I mean, like, once again, at least we are hearing it from Sony, so Sony would probably know their stock better, but it is always nice to go and have some like retrospection, with the Intel stuff, although I think it's kind of, you probably want to listen more to AMD than Intel, but it is nice to note. Like, it is nice to note that other regions and other companies will still be being affected by it, confirmed. So this could also just be Sony trying to be like, we're going to try our best to like procure chip priority and kind of go from there. At the end of the day, so we can kind of see. But basically, Nintendo is projected to sell 21 million Switch consoles during its current fiscal year, which is fine enough actually down. But also, if you kind of try to go compare it to like 23 to 21 is way different because, I mean, the PS5 is going for 18. So, like, there's still a pretty big buffer range with that. And ideally, if the supply chain issues do get better, I mean, it should keep on continuing over here. Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki said during an earnings briefing, translated by VGC, that Sony feels very comfortable about hitting this mark, which is also good news. Like, we're going to talk about this a little bit throughout the next few days. There's more stuff and like more different like specific, I guess, subsections of it. Suggesting that projections actually might be somewhat conservative. At the same time, he said demand may still outstrip supply, which would make a lot of sense too. Even now, like, a lot of people are still trying to get their PS5 in any way, shape, and form they possibly can, even for bundles and deal with that stuff, which is kind of crazy so to see. 18 million units is what we feel very comfortable we can get the parts and components for during fiscal year 2022. Totoki said, we feel like there is a little bit more higher demand than that. So the question is if we can meet the demand. I think we're still somewhat short over there. Totoki said PS5 stock remains very low, adding that Sony originally planned to have a sold 22.6 million PS5 units by the stage of the console's life cycle. The company reduced the target due to constraints in the market. So I want to talk about that as well. That'll probably be a separate video because there's just so much to talk about, so many things to chime on in, so many things I'd want to hear you guys on. But for now, before we dive into like negatives, let's go and say this positive. is great to see. I love the fact that the PS5s are becoming more accessible. I love the fact that we're getting more consoles. I love the fact that Sony's getting a little bit of like a chip on their shoulder and getting a little bit more, confident in all this type of stuff. I love seeing this. This might be a really good year for all of you guys that are still trying to get your consoles. So at the end of the day, some pretty good news. So make sure you guys are subscribed for all the restocking news anyway. And as well, make sure you guys are subscribed in general. Make sure you guys are following up the Twitter and Twitch stream down below, the Amazon links down below, for the PS5 Digital Console Controller Twitter giveaway down below, and all the Weebles and Coinbases too as well. And give me your thoughts and comments on this video.